Welcome to your astrology and spirituality overview for Sunday, the 17th of January. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Today we're going to use the Soul Purpose Oracle cards to see what spiritual message comes up for us Sunday. Really enjoy working with these cards.
Thank you so much for all your lovely comments of late. But not just comments, actual observations and points of view.
Yeah.
Especially about the thought for the day that we did on grudges. Really some absolutely cracking observations and insights. And I do agree that someone or several people mentioned the concept that the more we invest in grudges, the more we actually poison ourselves. I really get that. And I work very, very hard in my own situation to try to see the fragility of all of us, that we can all say or do things that are not great at any given time. It doesn't make us completely bad people. So if someone else doesn't have the best of days, or is very stressed out, or has had a loss, or reacts to a situation in a way that we find uncomfortable, I try not to hold too much on that, because we are intrinsically flawed. The only thing that's perfect about life is that it is so imperfect. That's the only certainty. So thank you so much, not just for your lovely comments of support, but actually where you're coming from as well.
Yeah, sharing your points of view.
Yeah, and I think in completely not a conscious way, we haven't tried to do this, a community is growing. And
it's so lovely. For us as well, because like I said at the start of that video, it does feel like we're talking amongst friends, and that is something that I'm really enjoying about this show.
And please don't be offended if we don't always answer every single comment, because we do get a lot of comments across YouTube, but also Facebook. Elisa does a lot with Instagram as well, and a tremendous amount of each day is trying to make sure that
and get round to everybody, because we do read every single comment.
Yeah, we really take it seriously, because we feel that some people might be stepping forward and saying things for the very first time on social media, because it's not normally their way to do so. But if we do fall short on some days, please bear with us. It's not that we don't notice or read them or really appreciate them, because we do.
Yeah, thank you. So the card for today, oh wow, another heavy one, is yellow, and it says blame. It says, I accept responsibility for my well-being. Wow. This is going a little bit back into what we were talking about the other day. I think in some ways we can sometimes blame others for why our lives have turned out the way that they have. And sometimes I really do understand why that would be a warranted feeling, because when things have happened to us, that has shaped our realities, experiences and life, and we're not all born with the same opportunities.
No.
We're not born equal. So I totally understand why that feeling of blame would come up. We also may at times blame ourselves for something. Perhaps we've acted,
lot of the time.
Yeah, perhaps we've acted in a reactionary way and then we feel a little bit guilty about it, or perhaps we say, well, I should have done this, or why did I do that, or if I'd have only made the other decision. But we can't think like that. This is where human beings are very special on the planet, because I'm sure if a lion made a mistake, they wouldn't walk around the pride for the rest of their lives thinking, oh well, if only I'd have eaten the antelope instead of the crocodile. I don't know.
Well, that's because the crocodile was just so snappy.
I don't know whether lions eat crocodiles, but I've been watching too many videos, I think.
Cartoons,
yeah. But we are a species that does have very intricate emotions. That's not to say other species don't, but we are quite unique in that way. And so I just think with the blame game, I'm not saying cut it out completely, because I just don't think it's possible to just say, oh, just don't worry about it, or just forget about it. But at the same time, it just, let's not walk around with that burden for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. You do sometimes hear people very angry about medical care that loved ones have had, quite understandably. But sometimes then in the context of the blame game, perhaps we have to look at, whether we smoked, whether we drank, whether we had too many fatty foods or convenience foods, didn't take much exercise. And that's all going to contribute. And if there's a point in the treatment that goes a little bit wrong, it's easy because we're angry to perhaps want to hold the authority to account, especially in the UK because of the National Health Service.
Yeah.
So we have this kind of compensation culture, don't we, where whatever happens, it's got to be somebody's fault. But of course, that then increases the tendency for people to look for those things in an opportunistic way, just for the money.
Yeah, where there's blame, there's a claim.
Yeah, and that's just something I've noticed with people that are very, very upset and wanted to take the organisation to the cleaner, so to speak, but actually not considering perhaps what their loved one's lifestyle was like and seeing that they did have some choices.
Yeah. So that's what this card is saying. We can take responsibility for certain elements of our choices and our life, and we have to, because it's not always somebody else's fault, even though that may have shaped some of our reality. It's a very tender topic.
Also think with blame, maybe someone might blame someone if they hadn't had their voice heard. So if there was a period where there perhaps should have been some kind of discussion, and their view could not necessarily be taken in the whole, but where there's a discussion where somebody else doesn't want to listen to a point of view, that could lead to a lot of frustration at the unsolved injustice that they may perceive. So again, somebody shared a marvellous comment about how social media gives loads of people this goes back to this thing that Elisa was saying the other day, that people can speak but not necessarily understand the impact of their words. So social media, everyone's piling out these opinions, and of course they can be incredibly wounding. So
and we don't always remember things exactly the same way, which is really interesting. I studied psychology, and in one of my classes we had to watch a video, and after the video, it was a video of a car accident. We had to write down what colour were the hanging dice in the car, and some of us were like, were they blue, were they pink? I can't quite remember. Well, there were actually no dice in the car, because people can be unreliable witnesses. If something is suggested to us, we can remember things in a slightly different way.
It's funny you say that, because the moon is conjunct Neptune today, which can be distortion central. In the tarot, as you probably know, the moon card is very much to do with our emotions, but it often comes up when we're actually not very clear about what we feel about something, and we're being encouraged to follow our intuition when we may actually be in quite a lot of conflict of which decision or which direction that we should take. And the moon conjunct Neptune, if someone has that in their natal chart, they're kind of like a born-again psychic or a very, very perceptive person, but very difficult to keep their boundaries and themselves safe from all the energy swirling around, because it's a very misty, distorting influence. And of course it was in the chart of the world on the solar return at the start of 2020, and I think very much linked to the spread of COVID. So that aspect is being repeated today. Maybe we're going to see the infection rate coming up a little bit more. Communications can also be distorted today because, of course, Neptune has been in a long-standing square with the North Node, which is retreating in the sign of Gemini. So the moon comes into the mix today. The moon square the North Node as well as Neptune. So I think our perception of what is real this weekend, or what is substantive or practical, may be a little bit more difficult to access.
So maybe not a day to just act on impulse, really, then.
Maybe a day to really rest, to read a book, to have a little bit of gentle escapism would be lovely. A walk in nature, definitely by somewhere watery, would be absolutely perfect for this Moon-Neptune combination.
Oh, I love that. I get a nice long bath this evening. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really grateful to all of you who have subscribed to this channel, and if you haven't already, be really honoured if you did so, and if you could also press or tap on that notification bell, that would mean a lot, because it means you get alerted every time we drop a new video.
Thank you, Elisa, and please check out your free daily horoscope beneath this video. But for now, from the A team, it is
goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from her. Goodbye.